get started. So today is all about what track managers are on, whether it's heading towards burnout or whether you're creating a way to be at your very best. Okay. And it's a really interesting topic because as I talk to managers over many years, a lot of them want to be heading towards their personal best and they're not quite sure if they're heading in the right way. And burnout is a factor for so many people, as we'll see in some research shortly. But firstly, a little bit about me. I like to keep fit, used to play football. I'm still a Collingwood member, so I was happy a couple of years ago when we won the premiership, and there's a photo of me there with my son, my partner. Not so happy last year. We'll see what happens this year. And in the middle, there's a picture of a leadership group from a few years ago that I had. I'm on the far left. I was one of the facilitators leading that group. And this is about my passion. So my passion and purpose in life now is to help leaders to be better leaders, because good leaders create a positive, happy, engaging environment. So I believe that by helping create more effective and engaging leaders, we create a much more happier world and community that we live in. So a little bit about my background. I became a manager fairly quickly in my late 20s, didn't have any changes, didn't have any training, and just got thrown in the deep end and had to learn by trial and error as I was going along, as most people do. And I've been involved in a leadership program this week, and 20 out of the 22 people said this is kind of what happened for them as well. So you put in the hard work, you work the long hours, and you think that you're making some progress. But eventually I got some good leadership training and some really good coaching, and I found that in less than a year, I improved more than I had in the previous 7 years, okay, with this support and guidance. And now this is what I want to help others with. And even in that situation, people started asking me to help them and coach them when they noticed the change. And so I eventually stepped out of corporate after nearly 20 years and became a full-time leadership coach and facilitator. And I've run leadership training for many people and coached individual managers, well over 300 now. And the key thing is that I've helped them to be able to work less hours, have a balanced life, get promoted and earn more, and yet still hit targets and have a highly motivated team. So overall, they're increasing their job satisfaction and yet having the balance that they're looking for. So with what we're going to talk about today, who is this focused on? It's focused on managers and the people who want to have more time with their loved ones and create better relationships. More time, such as holidays, without work contacting them and worrying about what's happening at work. And being able to set the boundaries so you've got nights and weekends for fun or hobbies or interaction with the kids rather than feeling like you've got to do more work. And also time for yourself. Managers who want to make sure they've got that healthy balance physically, mentally, and emotionally. And those that want to be able to achieve success through the team, really helping the team, the individuals, grow and develop themselves. And of course, many want opportunities for promotion and status that comes with that. But overall, it's about, are you looking to be able to be fulfilled at work, knowing that you can consistently hit targets and maintain that over a level of time, a period of time? And that's something that people tell me they worry about. Now, this is not for everybody. If you love doing the work yourself, then these approaches probably don't apply to you. Or if you like the idea of being fully in control and working long hours, that's okay. That's your choice. It's probably not for you what we're going to talk about today. If you don't really want to be a leader or an effective leader, or you don't really want to manage people, then this is not really for you, okay? So it's about those managers that want to get the best out of themselves as a manager, but also have a balanced life and do it in a sustainable way. So how did you get to be a manager? Most people get to be the manager because they were the best performer or they're an expert in the area that they're now getting promoted to manage. And the more senior management focus on pushing you to get it done. But what happens with most people is that no one sits down with them and says, there's actually a transition and a different way that you've got to go about things when you're a manager, okay? It requires a whole different set of skills. Maybe you had some of this, but 99% of the people that I speak to didn't have any of these discussions or support as they were transitioning into a management role. And maybe they get some training. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but often they get very little support in that transition. Okay. And many are also expected to complete a lot of that tasks in their old role and take on the management responsibilities. Now, what this leads to is that most managers have low engagement. In fact, there's low engagement generally across employees, and managers are even less engaged than the general employees in organizations. Burnout is the number one reason that managers are less engaged. They're either have experienced burnout or they're worried that they might be on the track to burnout, and they're not quite sure how to get out of that situation. Overwhelmed, over 70% of managers experience ongoing work stress. And again, they're not sure how to turn that or change that. And they don't feel like they've been set up for success. But more, as I said before, it feels like they've been thrown in the deep end. Okay. Now, this is a picture of what can often be happening for people, but it's actually the hard way to go about it. Right? Probably you're doing well because you're high performance. Most people who get to that management role have been high performers and are high performers. But the stress and the long hours is a concern. In order to get so much done, you will often say to yourself, it's easier or quicker to do it myself. And you feel like that you have to drive everything. And you also probably feel like that senior management are putting the pressure on you to make sure that everything happens and gets done properly. You know, you'd like to spend more time developing the team members and helping them to grow, but somehow time gets away from you and days just disappear. As you're trying to get all of this together, the work just gradually increases and you have less time for yourself, friends, and family. And you're trying as hard as you can to work this out, but trial and error is your main approach to see how you can improve things. And that eventually works, but it's a slow process. Okay. So that creates a lot of stress and leads many managers to think about, are we heading towards burnout? And unfortunately, the reality is if they keep on that track, yes, you are. So let's take a moment to reflect, right, on a few things here. How are you going? So firstly, if you look at your performance right now or over the last 3, 6 to 12 months, and 10 out of 10 is you at your best. It's not perfect. It's you performing really well at your best. Like an athlete who's performing at their best. You know you're capable of it. That's 10 out of 10. 1 out of 10 is where you're really struggling and nothing is really going the right way. So how are you traveling? Think about that. And feel free to jump in if you've thought through that already.
Yeah, normally I like to operate around a 9 or 10, but I think currently I'm around about a 5 because so much happening, not enough time to do everything. Yeah, definitely around about a 5.
Okay. Well, it's great to hear, Lisa, that you have seen yourself at 9 or 10, because many people haven't even had that. But obviously there's some things happening right now that are challenging your performance. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to hear more about that. If you want to share some more, it's up to you how much you want to share.
Yeah, I'm operations manager, the senior leadership for a student-led organisation. We have some challenges within that student-led board that I'm trying to navigate whilst sort of managing operational tasks of the staff and getting things done. So it's sort of having the need to get things done and business as usual and develop and the organisation as well. There's a few sort of developments coming up across the next year that we need to drive forward, need to do the day-to-day, the driving forward of that, but also managing some of these conflicts that are happening within the board, which is really, really difficult to sort of find time to do, because I start sort of doing one thing and getting sort of making some inroads into one task or project. Yep. And then there'll be 10 other things that sort of come in. Then the inbox is filling up with like 30 emails that I haven't addressed yet and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm finding that everything's sort of coming at once. So having the time to address everything and do everything really well is really challenging at the minute.
Okay. Yes, that sounds very, very challenging. And is this something that's going to go just for a defined short period of time, or is this likely to go on for months or even years?
Probably months, hopefully not years, but could have potential for years. But at least until the end of the year.
Okay, so that's a long time, in the sense of being able to look after yourself and keep performing, try to perform at the higher level. It's a long time to try and sustain that. And that's quite a challenge. Okay. Have you tried anything specific to get on top of it so far?
Yeah, so I have scheduled days where I sort of work from home, where I can, and I say to everybody, I'm working, but I'm not available on these dates, just so that I can actually get some things done without any distractions. And I've started putting out of office on my email, for example, to say I won't respond to any emails received on this date, but I'll sort of do it on the next date I'm available. It assists. It's not perfect, because obviously if you've got a bunch of emails then are piling up, once you actually then get back into the office and need to address those emails, you still have everything else to sort of go on whilst you're responding to those emails. Also sort of trying to delegate a bit more successfully as well, which isn't particularly easy for me, because like you said, it is that sort of, oh, well, I know what I need and I can just get it done and do it quickly, rather than go, right, I need to walk you through this. This is what we need doing. But I know that given the current situation, I can't sustain what I'm trying to do without that delegative sort of tasks. So I have sort of trying to be doing that to some extent. I need to be better at it. I definitely need to be better at it. But those are the sort of strategies that I'm using at the moment.
Right, they're really good strategies, and implemented correctly, they will help you a lot. And I know the delegation one can feel like it's challenging because it does take up some time initially, but I can promise you that if you focus on that and focus on changing some of the interactions to help you develop the team, then it'll just take a little while, but eventually you'll get some significant benefits from that. And then that makes things more sustainable. So it's, I encourage you to keep going with that. It's not easy to do it. I understand that too. Okay. And the other tip just there, and this will come up as we're talking through as well, is what I'm hearing is similar to what I hear from a lot of managers, is with everything that's come up, you are taking on kind of almost like double workload. And the reality is, over, the period of 9 to 12 months, that's not sustainable either. So the other element is really looking at how you can look at taking on less. And part of that's delegation, but part of that is also either saying no to some things or changing delivery timeframes on things, looking at resources. So that's another thing to consider, that you don't just have to take it all on. You can push back.
Yeah.
Not easy, but it's an effective strategy. Right, and happy to talk in more detail about that sort of as we go through, or at the end, if you like.
Yeah, great, thank you.
So a couple of other things to think about, which we've already alluded to, is how many hours you're working per week, and whether that is what you want. There's no right or wrong in the number of hours. The key thing we're looking at here is that if you want to work 40 hours a week and you're working 50, 55 hours a week, that's where some changes need to be made. And most managers find they're working more hours than they would ideally like.
Yeah.
And then it's about thinking about, right, do I have all of the tools and resources and support for me to be at my best? Okay, do I have them at my fingertips? I know exactly how to use them. And for most people, again, they don't. They have some, they don't have as much as they need. And then some people don't even know exactly what are all of the tools and resources that they need. And the reality is, if you haven't got most of those, then it makes it harder for you to be at your best.
Yeah.
Okay. So in asking this of many managers through my anecdotal research, so most managers rate themselves 3 to 6 out of 10, right? And occasionally, they, like yourself, Lisa, they've been at 8, 9, or maybe 10 out of 10. But overall, they sit between 3 and 6, yet they want to be exactly like yourself, want to be 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10. And often they're stuck in some situation where they don't know exactly how they're going to get there and get there in a way that they can maintain it. And what does this look like for them? How do they describe it? You know, down around that 3 out of 10, it's low confidence, high workload that doesn't seem like it's going to change for many months or ever. They're fixing things, doing the hard and the complex, and therefore not getting time to be strategic or to develop others. And that leads to either burnout or leaving the role. Some are a bit better where they're on top of a few more things and confidence goes up and down as a roller coaster. They try and do some courses to develop their leadership. What they find is because they're so busy at work, they don't get to implement what they learn in the training. And so they fall back into old habits pretty quickly, like knowing I should delegate, but then saying, oh, it's easy to do it myself, so they do it themselves again, and still lacking the strategic time. But ideally, where we want to be is consistently high confidence. You're empowering and engaging with your team members, yet still holding them accountable, right? You're able to add strategic value to the organization and to be proactive. That's kind of a view of the personal best as the leader. So we come back around to this. Do managers say and think it's easier to do it myself, or when I do it, I know it will be done right? And this is a key indicator that you're actually sabotaging yourself from being at your best. Okay, stopping you from doing the things that's going to make you highly effective as a leader. So the other things that fall into this, and again, talking to the people in the leadership program that I did this week, almost all of them fell into this situation. They're consistently fixing the work that's done by their team members, right? If it's not quite done on time, if it's falling a bit behind, if it seems a bit complex, if it's not quite up to standard, they get in and fix it, take on the issues. And then when people in the organization come to you with questions, you give clear, direct answers to those questions. Now, these seem like these can be the right things to do, like telling people step by step exactly how they should be completing their tasks. But actually, these things that seem logically correct are the things that will stop you from being at your best. And they create more work for yourself. How come? Because these three approaches, while in the first instance seeming like they're logical, what actually happens is that everybody starts to rely on you as the manager. If it's not quite right, I'll just rely on Lisa to fix it. Right? If I'm not sure what to do, just ask Lisa, she'll tell me what to do. Okay? Or if I want to get an understanding of how I complete the tasks, or if I don't even want to just work that little bit harder, if I just ask Lisa, she'll tell me step by step what I need to do, which is only increasing your workload as the manager. Right. So quickly, how did this happen? Well, mostly it starts with we throw managers in the deep end. Why do we do that? Because organizations want to be able to fill the roles quickly, and they don't want to minimize the costs associated with filling those roles. Unfortunately, it doesn't build confidence, and the managers step in initially feeling like I understand how to do the task, and then within a few months realize management and leadership is different, and I'm uncertain, and confidence gets a bit shaky. And then there's the middle ground where the organization tries to do some things to support the manager, maybe with some training, but they don't give too much mentoring or coaching or ongoing setup to help them be successful. Okay. And most of this comes from because the organization just wants to limit how much they spend on the development of managers, and they're not looking at it as a longer term investment. And trial and error is a slow process. But what we want is a really clearly set up transition plan so you're on the fast track to being at your best. for example, so you have the support so you can know how to delegate effectively, and someone's there supporting it, also holding you accountable for doing that, and spending time developing the team, okay, and thinking about what it means to add strategic value. So rather than just leaving you on your own to try and figure it out, you've got a plan and guidance and support to achieve that, such as a model like this that I use, where you've got a foundation of understanding self-leadership, which is about your own identity and authenticity, and also the impact, what impacts you, the impact you have on others. Then people leadership, building a foundation of trust, and then in there what's called the leap. So that's the leap from doing things yourself to getting things done through others. And then strategic leadership. How do you align within your team, and then your team within your organization? So there's a connection from the organization purpose and objectives all the way through with what people are doing, but also the acumen, that strategic thinking and adding value to the organization. And that leads you into flow and your personal best as a leader. So here's some key things that you can think about and how to do it differently. So first of all, thinking about leadership is a set of skills that you need to practice and improve to be at your best as a leader. And think about it as similar to learning to play the guitar or something like dancing or playing tennis, something along those lines. And do you have any sort of hobbies like that you do, Lisa?
No, my hobbies center around reading. I've got two small girls, so it's mostly following them around and sorting them out, reading when I have time.
Yeah, and I fully understand. I'm sure you can consider and see that learning to play guitar or play tennis, right, what goes into that sort of an approach, and how do people go about it if they want to get better in these areas? Well, they go to some lessons, okay? They get a coach to help and guide them along the way, okay? Now, if people want to learn how to play tennis, even, at a reasonable social level, they know that they can't just go to, like a half-day workshop or, a weekend workshop, learn a little bit about tennis, and then, go off a couple of weeks later to the tournament or to the local tennis club and be good at it. And yet that's kind of what we seem to expect from managers. Right? Give them the role, give them a course here and there, or a video, or something online, or a book, and then kind of figure it out. And it doesn't work all that well. So what we want is for leaders to be consistently developing skills, and some things, like all of these skills that we learn, some things it feels like it's a bit awkward or we're not doing so well at the start. And we need to persist with those things so that you can get through that and get to be at your best, right? And that's hard to do when you're learning on the job and learning by trial and error. So what do we want to be able to do to be at your very best as a leader? First of all, is focus on creating a team environment that is based on trust, okay? We'll go into these in a little bit more detail. And then have the proven leadership processes so you know exactly what to do and the steps to put in place when you do things like delegation or giving effective feedback or having difficult conversations. And there's many more of those. Right? And then it's getting the support, guidance, and accountability on a consistent basis to help you continually improve, like going back to your tennis coach on a regular basis to help you to continue improving your skills. So let's have a look at each of these in a little bit more detail. So creating a team environment that's based on trust and psychologically safe, which is another important element of the legislation now. So interestingly, Google did some research with many thousands of people and found that trust and psychological safety was the #1 factor for having a high-performing team. Now, here's the big thing, is that most managers are aiming to build trust, but their team members don't agree. The research shows that our employees and team members think managers focus on getting tasks and getting results. And usually that pressure is coming down from the managers above them to get to tasks and results. And so that's how the employees perceive it. Right? And so most managers, even though they want to build trust and not realizing that they're breaking trust in a lot of ways, in a lot of small ways. Okay, so they're not completely shattering trust, but they're just chipping away, breaking it. And one example that comes up a lot when I talk to managers is about how often or what happens when they schedule one-on-ones with their team. And many managers find that they are late or need to cancel or reschedule one-on-ones because of all the things that are going on. And that's an example of breaking trust. Okay. And most managers don't think about it that way. They think, oh, something came up. I had to deal with it. It was important. My team members understand. Well, yeah, they kind of do. They also take it on board that something else is more important than them as a person. Now, if it happens once every now and again, no big deal. But if it happens 2 or 3 times, then the people start to think about, well, does my manager really care about me that much? And if they're not sure about that, then it's hard to build strong trust. So it's about making sure we're doing the things that are building trust, not just completing tasks. And it's about having these proven leadership processes. Most managers don't have them at their fingertips, and so they deal with things ad hoc. An example is for talking with one of these people from the leadership program this week, talking yesterday, we were talking about feedback, and we'd gone through a model and the steps to give effective feedback. And she said, like, even though I've been a manager for years, I've never so clearly been taken through those steps. I've never used anything like that to give feedback. And I didn't realize that what I was doing wasn't really effective as giving feedback. And so that's what I hear from most managers. So it's about having these proven processes that hundreds of managers have used so you know that they work, and then putting them in place. And again, it's when you first use them, it can feel a bit awkward. It can feel a bit like you're not doing things really well, and you're not doing them probably as well as you eventually will. But they are proven processes, so it's going to work. Whereas when you're doing trial and error or ad hoc, you're not really sure about whether you're doing it right or what is going to work going forward. So we want to build like a house, of an engaged team. If you're building a house, you wouldn't want a builder to not have any plans and just do things ad hoc as they're going along. You'd want them to map out the plans and have proven processes and show you that's how they're going to go about it, so it'll be solid and stand for a long time. And that's what you want to be able to do as a leader, to have those at your fingertips and be consistently improving with them, which comes to the third point, is about getting help and support and guidance to develop your leadership skills. Okay. So if, for example, if we talk about the leadership feedback, leaders giving feedback, again, when most people use feedback model for the first time, right, it doesn't go perfectly. So if it's trial and error and doing it on your own, it can be hard to work out, well, what could I do to improve? Where did I do some things that were good? What can I do differently next time? So getting some guidance from someone else, a different perspective, who will both support you and hold you accountable, fast tracks your development. And that's why sports people and sports teams have coaches and a lot of support around them to give them feedback, as an example, because that's the fastest way for them to get to be at their best. Okay. So another element around this is about really getting clear on who you are as an authentic leader, which most people kind of think about a little bit. Very, very few people write it down until they get into some sort of usually it's a leadership coaching program where they do drafts and document and work through what authentic leadership looks like to them. So that's what an accountability partner, someone with expert guidance, can provide for you to fast track development in terms of your leadership skills, which connects through to high performing teams and also working less hours and less stress. Mm-hmm. So I'll stop there for a moment, and I know there's a lot of information. I'm happy for you to jump in with questions now, or we can wait till the end. I've probably got about another 5 to 10 minutes of a little bit of information to share.
So in terms of some of that, when we talked about the feedback and things like that and building the trust with staff, that research by Google was interesting because, if you'd asked me, I'd say yes, there's a lot of trust between myself and staff. However, linking in some of that other, the reasons why trust is eroded, cancelling, pushing back supervision sessions, those sorts of things, and not delegating or giving infinite sort of instruction on how a task should be completed, and not showing my own trust in the staff to actually, take a task and run with it and complete it successfully. I think that my perception of staff trust is probably very different to what it actually is because of the things that I am doing to influence and erode some of that trust. So I think it's made me sort of think a bit more about how I need to develop my own sort of delegation and trust within the staff and stop prioritizing, my own tasks over some of these supervisions, because that is an important part of building that trust. In the future, because I think that for me, that's probably one of the key takeaways from this morning, is that actually I'm doing a lot to erode that trust, and I need to work on that particularly.
Well done. That's a great insight and great takeaway. So I'm glad that you got to have that insight as part of going through this webinar. So it's fantastic to hear. It gives you some things to work on there. How clear do you feel about what you need to do to make some changes there?
Yeah, I think it is clear. I think what for me, the plan for me now is to sort of sit down, work out, all right, these are the things that I need to achieve over the next 12 months. Are all of these things that I actually have to do? Is this a task list for me, or is this a list of things that need to get done? And these are things that I can then work on. Who can I delegate this to? What level of detail needs to go into this? And then start delegating more successfully to those people without taking, because that whole sort of attitude of, what, it'll just be quicker if I do it myself, comes from the fact that actually believing that I have to give that detailed level of information within the task for somebody to complete it, where I need to trust that actually the reason why we employ these people with skills, with the skill sets, is that they are, able to facilitate those things and to do some of that work. So I think I'm going to, at some point today, I'm going to sit down, write everything out, and then work out, okay, who can I delegate these things to? And then in those one-to-ones, have those discussions then about, these are the things that need to be achieved. This is what I'd like you to achieve. Having a brief discussion with them and making sure they're comfortable sort of taking on those tasks and providing any level of detail that they need rather than it coming from me.
Fantastic. Great approach. Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
I encourage you, if it helps and you want to send a draft of that to me, I'm happy to, give some feedback on that draft of, mapping out your plan.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael.
Pleasure. So, and what you will experience, if you like most others, is that you've got a very good, clear picture of the plan as you've just described it. What happens is little hiccups and hurdles and speed humps along the way. So it's also about how do you identify those and work through those along the way. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're planning it out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So for example, just a quick little example on that. One of the things that we find where managers have been doing it themselves or fixing a lot of things is that when you first start to try and delegate, it may be that you've accidentally trained them to not think for themselves or not be proactive. So it can sometimes be a struggle to get them going with like creating the plan and the approach that you've just been talking about. So that's one example, and perhaps something that you can just think about as part of what you're implementing.
Yeah.
Right, so just a few things about moving forward. I'll just do this quickly. Many people try and do this themselves, and it's about, if you try and do it yourself, is it going to work? If you don't change, what happens around burnout or growth and promotion, or if you're in the same position in a year or in 3 years' time. Or you can get some help. Find someone who can help you to fast track the leadership with that guidance and support, so that you can have more time with your loved ones and to yourself, achieve more in your team, and have more satisfaction at work and promotional opportunities. And do that more on the fast track rather than that trial and error method yourself. Here's a couple of examples. I won't read these out. You can have a quick scan through what Alex has said about how things improved for him and his promotions. And then we have Jude. There's a really interesting, super intelligent guy, did the MBA. But it was really interesting how fine-tuning some of that really made a big difference to the engagement and productivity.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity to have 6 months worth of leadership coaching. And here's an outline of the key program that I have. And the key difference here is sort of, it's about helping you transition. It's not about giving you content and then sort of at the end of the training, waving goodbye and saying good luck. It's about making sure that you are able to implement it. So first of all, you get online video-based training with the model that I described previously. You get one-on-one coaching, and you also get weekly live small group coaching sessions. So that's the key thing about helping people consistently over time to implement all the things they need to be at their best, and having those proven processes put into place and developing those skills. Mm-hmm. And you can try it risk-free, jump in, see how it goes. So like what other training programs allow you to try it and then decide whether you want to pay for it or continue with it afterwards. And it takes up about a couple of hours a week to learn this and to get involved in the coaching. And then you can have a significant improvement in about 90 days. And you get a complimentary coaching session to start to make sure that it is right for you and in your situation. Anyway, so that's a little bit about the program. And it's been designed in a way that it's cost effective for most organizations. So it's similar in cost to, a short leadership program rather than super expensive like the one-on-one executive coaching programs that are around and out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know about that that now. Hopefully you'll consider that to some extent. But what other, given what we've been talking about in your current situations, what other questions come to mind that I could help with?
I think at the minute I'm sort of at the point where I've sort of realized that I'm on that edge of burnout. I can sort of feel it. There's no sort of light at the end of the tunnel at the minute. It's just work. There's so much to be done. There's not enough time to do things. Things keep coming up and that sort of thing. The delegation stuff will certainly help, and mapping out exactly what needs to be done. Do you have any sort of tips outside of that to try and avoid that burnout stage? And what that looks like to be able to go, all right, I need to take a step back because I'm actually here now.
Yes. So good insight to recognize that. That's a great level of self-awareness, and I appreciate you sharing. So the key here is to start to set some boundaries and look at doing some weekly planning that connects into that 12-month plan you were talking about, and working out a level of what I call capacity as part of that, and then being able to negotiate and influence and push back on some of the boundaries that you set. Mm-hmm. And what that, at a high level, firstly, what that means essentially is getting a sense of all the things that you've been asked to do and looking at this is actually impossible for one person to achieve in one role, because that's what I'm hearing about your situation, and it's similar with many others. Okay. And then it's about mapping out for you, right, what should a normal, hardworking but reasonable week look like in terms of the hours that you put in. Okay. And setting boundaries around that. And then you start to connect that to your 12-month plan, right? So you're getting an idea of what you could actually fit in across a week, and then across a month, and then across 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it doesn't need to be in fine detail, but it needs to be mapped out in a way that you can see, that it's going to take, 80 hours a week for 3 months to achieve a certain outcome, and you just don't have the resources to do that. So then it's about setting boundaries and then negotiating around what actually happens or in what time frame that happens.
That makes sense.
And one of the most important things in this situation is to really look at what you can stop doing or not do. So it's about identifying that, and essentially from an influencing negotiating point of view, it becomes about outlining what's reasonable for you to work, what kind of time and resources are involved, and then making a decision. Do we not do it? Do we still do it and allow it to take longer? Or do we do this one but something else drops off the priority list?
Yeah. Have to think about that.
Yep. And I've got some structures and templates and things with the year planning back to 90-day planning into weekly planning with a video around that that could be useful if you want more detail around that too.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael.
Pleasure.
Awesome. I don't think I've got any other questions.
Okay.
But thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I really appreciate to be here today for the webinar, and you being able to share as much as you did. I hope that you got a lot out of it. I appreciate your openness.
Oh, thank you very much. I did get a lot out of it, so thank you very much.
Fantastic. Good luck with it, Lisa. Yeah, and please, if any other questions come up, or if you want to send me something to help you along the way with some feedback, happy to do that too.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Michael. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks, Lisa. Bye.
Bye.